What's up, y'all? Beautiful day out today. So, today I wanted to come in here and talk about why you only need one relationship in your life. Just to put this in perspective, let's say I had a romantic partner, right? And let's say I continuously told her, like, you're not doing enough, you don't look good, you're lazy, you know. I criticized her on all these things, right? Obviously, that relationship's not going to last very long, right? That person's going to resent me, and then in turn, obviously that will lead to us separating and not really ever loving each other. And so that makes intuitive sense, right? But I feel like people will treat themselves so horribly. People will tell those things to themselves and think it's fine or think it's like deserved, if you will. But how can you really how can you really ever love someone else if you can't give yourself that, right? And what I've come to realize is in doing that for myself, it allows me to go out and actually pour that into other people. I used to think that if my family felt loved, if all my friends felt loved, and like my romantic partners felt loved, I was good, right? I would be happy under those conditions. And if those conditions start to falter, I'm going to put as much effort as I can to make sure it gets back to there so I can get back to there as well. But I realized how flawed that was. I realized that there's a reason why, for example, a lot of therapists and stuff they tell you you have to fix yourself first before you can fix other people, and that's absolutely true. I believed I was fixed and I was doing things right. That was not true at all. And I think something that really helped me personally was building a relationship with God and realizing that He loves me unconditionally, and so I should not necessarily hate myself. I should never be telling myself terrible things because I know that what God has made me to do and how God has made me as is already perfect because He always has the right plan for me. And so I can't tell myself, you're not doing enough, you suck, you're lazy. But I know that God gave me all of the skills and weaknesses I need for His perfect will later down the road. And so, in knowing that, I don't have to tell myself, all these negative thoughts, but instead, I can tell myself positive thoughts. And because I'm starting to love myself so much, then I love myself so much, I would love to share that with other people in my life. I love to share that with my family, with my friends, with, romantic interests, stuff like that, right? So that brings me to another point. Before I actually, started going to church and stuff, I actually got a bit too peaceful with having only a relationship with myself, if you will. I was okay with just, I was too okay with being alone, and I never really went out to create new opportunities to meet new people and spread my love because I was perfectly complacent with what I had. And while that's not necessarily a terrible thing, I had to realize that I would never really grow if I didn't actually put myself out there, right? I would hang out with the same people every day, and it's great to have a tight knit circle, but at the same time, I have learned so much more because I've actually put myself out and put myself in situations where I can create new opportunities to get a different perspective on friends, get a different perspective on what I actually enjoy, right? And so back when I was too complacent with myself, I realized that I believed I loved myself a lot more than I do now. I believed that I had reached, the peak of self love and that I didn't need anyone else but myself. But I've kind of realized that in doing that, I was okay with not sharing my love with other people. And I think that goes directly against what God wants us to do. So I think God wants us to spread love to others. That's the point of it, right? I feel like it was a bit selfish of me to only love myself. And so now I love, my viewers enough that I'm willing to come on here and help y'all with stuff like this. I'm willing to, show up for my friends time and time again, show up for my family members, make sure they're good. And that's so much more fulfilling for me and it helps me so much more because I love myself now, and so I want to be kind of holding the torch for others, if you will. And I've come to realize that the only relationship I have that will stick with me forever is one with myself. Everything else is a blessing that can come and go over time. And so that's why I think also it's so much easier to love other people, is because I know that for me personally, God could have chose to never introduce these people into my life. They could have died before I was born, or I could have lived in a certain different place. I could have been in the wrong place in the wrong time and never met these people. But God drew me to these people because He knew that He made me perfect enough that I could show my love to them and they would show their love back to me, and I would feel so much more fulfilled by that. Now, I feel so blessed to have the circle I have, especially with how supportive you guys are for this, and how supportive y'all been like through my whole life. And obviously, I'm gonna give credit to God, but I know a lot of my viewers are not religious, and I'll just come to say that in realizing that everything else around you is a blessing and not really a bare minimum or whatever you want to call it, it will cause you to love them more because you realize that that can be taken away just like that. And so oftentimes that compels me to love more. Because, I go back and forth between Michigan and here back home, and I don't know what can happen in the couple months that I'm away. So obviously, it makes the most sense for me to make the most of my time and love as much as possible in every aspect. That's just what makes sense to me. And I think it should make sense for everyone as well. But I don't think I necessarily had that strength before I got into the church, got into the Bible, stuff like that. But if you don't need that, if you are, you know, atheist or agnostic, whatever, and you still have that strength, props to you. That is amazing. But I found it so much easier when I know that God always has my back and loves me unconditionally. And He'll only give me things that He knows will either, you know, make me feel more inclined to love or build me into the man I need to be to love more, right? That's my take. I might end this video here. I think this is a very important topic to talk about. A lot of friends I have, they're not in a relationship right now. If you are, I'm very happy for you. It's amazing. Uh, I think that everything I've said kind of still applies, but if you're not, you just got to know that it's okay and you count your blessings and you realize that, you should take every opportunity you have to outpour love. Thank you guys for watching. As I said, beautiful day outside. Hope to do something later on today outside. Talk to you guys later.